Hello. This is Coach Red Pill speaking to all of you here, and I've got three terrific guests. I'll introduce them. There's Brittany from a Bit of Britt. Say hello, Brittany.
Hello.
This is Coach Red Pill speaking. There's Mouthy Buddha, who's well, everybody knows Mouthy Buddha. Mouthy, say hello.
Hola.
And finally, there's Orwell and Goode, the meme master. You know him on Twitter, and he's developing his channel, and I'm a big supporter of all his work. Say hello.
Oh, hey, guys. Hello, guys.
So I just want to say that we don't have anything really specific prepared, but we were talking about something really interesting that Mouthy had brought up about lack of attention because of Twitter, because I have my issues on Twitter too, so I want to talk about them. But Mouthy, why don't you continue talking about what you were referring to insofar as like an inability to read?
Well, right. I can still read, but here's the thing. I cannot read a book and get into it for very long. And I think that this is due to Twitter and social media and this new kind of these technologies that are making it's just making it difficult for the mind to stay focused for a long period of time, because a book isn't instant gratification. It's a different mode of thinking. And Twitter is that instant ping of dopamine. And I think that when using these technologies too much or too often, it can lead I don't know if there's evidence for this. There probably is if we look hard enough. But my theory is that these technologies are actually draining our attention spans so profoundly that it actually makes us suffer more, because attention is actually very important if you don't want to suffer a lot, because you have to, whatever the mind is paying attention to, that is what will be your current experience. So if you're not able to focus on something positive or something good, whatever that is, for a longer period of time, it hurts you. So I really think that these technologies could be really screwing us up. What do y'all think?
Yeah,
Britt?
it's definitely a possibility. Do you have your notifications still on, Mouthy?
Yeah, I mean, so it's just kind of like I always get stuff, but I think there's a different way you can set it, right? You can put it to where
turn it off.
Well, no. I'm saying no, not that. I'm saying you can still have the notifications on, but like you limit it. No.
Off.
No, what I'm saying is you can still have the notifications on, but you can make it to where only people who follow you are notified or something like that. Maybe that's something that I'll have to do, because but then I won't be able to see all the other stuff,
Yeah, on your computer. I mean, like I have all of my notifications off, because or else I'm just like it's something new. It's I feel like a heroin addict, but with none of the fun part of like sleeping on the streets. But other than that, it's like no. You don't want to go there. You want to turn off the notifications. That's what I do. And like focus.
That's good.
Dude, this is fucking basic. I mean,
on the phone.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's the funnest part though, because whenever you turn on Twitter, that little load button hits, and then boom, you get like a whole bunch of notifications, and you click on it. And plus, I am a drug addict, so it's like that's exactly where my brain.
The reason.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't have like drugs or alcohol anymore, so.
Well, it off. Well, I'm actually in the middle of watching Terminator 2, right? And the whole point of Terminator 2 is that the Ewan McGregor character, he's an addict, right? But instead of doing heroin, now he's running. Because he took out the bad addiction for a good addiction, or an addiction that at least has a positive result, right? Well, you should do that then. I mean, like take up running or take up something else that's highly addictive, and
right. I've been trying. Well, I mean, I've been trying to figure out what best addiction to satisfy this thing with, this fucking addict mind that I have. But it doesn't. It's not really satisfied with like healthy things. It likes to do the depraved kind of nihilistic things like drugs and alcohol and food too, which I know Brittany, a lot about with like diet and stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. So
what do you eat?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've been doing really good for the past.
Broccoli.
Like, I've been doing really good, right? No, for the past 7 days actually, I've been doing well, but I've had a long history of I would call it eating addiction, but I know people have a lot of qualms about that. So maybe I could call it like really fucking bad eating habits. Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
And this would mean like fast food 3 times a day, eating.
Yeah.
I know.
I've been there.
Oh
I've been
my
there.
In bed.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
and like, orange juice and
Okay, stop talking,
Gatorade
Mouthy,
and
because
chocolate.
poor Britt's
All right.
head is about to explode.
You're making me sick.
Yeah, come on, man. I mean, have a little decency, I mean, she's all about, kill the fatties.
Oh my god.
Well, I have
yeah,
to. I
it's,
mean, full disclosure, my thinking is very simple. See, we have like a lot of expense with fat people, right? Military, right? And they got a lot of bullets. Okay, so why don't we just put 2 and 2 together and be done with it? And hey, we'll have like a party with the money that we saved,
Oh. Wow.
I mean, I'm okay with that.
Oh, Brittany, you're laughing, but you're secretly thinking, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I suppose this does kind of nudge us in the direction of a conversation that many people are having about fat acceptance and stuff like that. And if someone's 300 or 400 pounds and they say, I think that the term is healthy at any weight. Is that the term?
Oh god, healthy at any size. Yeah.
What do you think about that? Is that true or?
That's completely.
She's in favor of it.
Oh yeah, totally. It's sexy too. No.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Disgusting.
there was this article that came out where they interviewed all these fat acceptance women who are overweight, and none of them had any predilections to date a man of their similar size. So there's a bit of hypocrisy there too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They want like
So
Ryan
it's-
Gosling.
Exactly. I mean,
Right. Yeah. What is that, man?
what
Entitlement.
about Ryan Gosling? I missed it. Oh, that they want to
The
date
fat
somebody
women.
like Ryan Gosling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Fat
Basically,
girl.
yeah. The claim is that even the overweight, or I guess we could just say fat women, who are saying we should just embrace this part of ourselves, we can be healthy at any weight, are actually preferring, the healthy, fit males, and I think that goes on both sides. Actually, this idea that it's just, but. At the same time, however, I would say that some of the stuff in the skeptic community and the anti-community talking about the fat acceptance maybe goes a little bit too far into, okay, now you're just being a dick.
In what way?
Like,
Who's
I
being
get
a dick? The fat
Well,
acceptance
some-
people are being a dick?
No, not the fat acceptance people. Like the people who are talking out against it. Some people, I think, maybe will take it a little bit too far and be like, yeah, you're just fat. Well, I don't know what the right or wrong thing is to say, but I know that there has to be a happy medium. Duh, we can't walk around and say that being fat is okay. But at the same time, you don't want to like fucking,
Yeah, but the problem is that they are saying that fat is okay. That it's okay to be 500 pounds of lard and be unable to move out of your chair in your mother's basement, right? And when you're broke, they have to come with a giant crane and pull you out somehow. Somehow what they have to do is like pick up your house, move the house, then stick the crane into the big corpse and then replace it. That's what they think is okay. It's like, you're discriminating against me because I have a few extra pounds. I'm big boned. Jesus Christ, big bone like fucking
A big bone.
brontosaurus bones.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's true. It is a very serious thing, and it's bizarre that. Well, okay, let me ask you this, Coach.
Just to interrupt here for a second, Mouthy, Orwell, neither one of you happen to be overweight, are you?
I am about 5 to 10 pounds overweight. Yes, I am.
You are. How bad are you?
He said 5
Mouthy?
to
Or
10
what?
pounds.
No, it's
Yeah,
talking to you,
me,
Malcolm.
I'm about, I would say 5 to 10 pounds overweight. I'm doing better, but my
Oh,
weight
that's
constantly
nothing.
fluctuates.
And Orwell,
oh,
what
I
about
mean-
you?
Well, I'm not overweight at the moment, but I have been before, and I get into these ruts where if things aren't going well, just overeat, binge drink, and just do things like that, which piles it on really quickly. But I'm also very strong, and I have lifted for powerlifting and bodybuilding before, so I've got a lot of mass on me naturally anyway.
Right. Now, what happens to me is that it's sort of like when I get anxious, you know, I start to eat too much, and sometimes the drinking, because I don't drink like excessively, but you know, sometimes you go through these patches where you're going, you know, a glass of wine with lunch, and then drinks in the afternoon with people you're meeting, and then drinks in the evening because you're going to some dinner, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're drinking a lot, not as like not like a you know, alcoholic level of drinking, but just a lot of consumption, and that just piles on so fast. And by the way, I've never quite understood one thing: how come alcoholics are universally overweight? Does anybody know that? The reason for that? Because I mean, like, alcohol is just all sugar, right?
Right, but
well, I think there are two types of alcoholics, though. You have the ones who drink loads of spirits, who tend to be quite slender, maybe because it suppresses their appetite, and then you have the beer gut. Because beer releases an enzyme which suppresses your ability to burn fat, and it makes you hungry. So everything you eat while you're under the influence of beer, you can't physically burn, so it gets stored as fat.
Really? I didn't know that.
Estrogen. Yeah.
Hey, is that a reason? Is that a reason why prehistoric Europeans drank beer?
No, it's because the water was too dangerous to drink, so they have to make really light beer, like 3.3% alcohol, something like that, just to kill the bacteria.
Ah, right. Yeah, that makes much more sense, actually. Yeah.
How did you know that? You knew that like right away. That was like I had no idea how to answer that question. That was pretty good.
Because he's
like
smart. You know,
right?
He's smart and educated.
Actually
and
knowledgeable.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I surround myself with high quality people. What can I say? You know, you know, you surround yourself with the smart people, and hey, maybe people think that you're smart too. You know, that's my motto. You know, but anyway, no, the fat acceptance thing, I find it pathetic because it seems to me that it's part of the normalization of pathology, because it's not only the fat acceptance thing; it's this whole transsexual thing, and now on children, which I think is just criminal. And that's the thing that drives me a little bit nuts, that everybody is pushing as normal or as, you know, a lifestyle choice, things that objectively are diseases, mental diseases, you know? Well, it just drives me a little bit nuts.
Let me ask you this, who do you look to blame, or who do you think holds more responsibility? The society for basically making easy access to fast food everywhere as soon as we open the door? Or does all of the responsibility, in your mind, fall on the individual fat person?
Well, that's a very good question. I think that it's 50, not 50-50. I'd say it's 60-40, weight more towards the individual. Because certainly you have all this food, you know, all over the place, and the smell of it, right? It's almost engineered to light up your brain so that you get hungry and you start salivating and you want to eat the stuff, right? Well, I mean, actually, I think that Brittany might know this as to whether or not they like insert flavors and chemicals so as to make the food the fast food more attractive to people, more attractive to their subconscious. I think I read something about that along those lines, or maybe I'm
yeah, like a certain combination of like salt, sugar, and fat. I've heard that really makes it like.
Well, it's like foods like cheese and nuts, which are high in fat. They taste really good because, I mean, how long have we lived in luxury for? Like 80 years? Oh, yeah. So before that, we need high-calorie foods, and it tastes good because it's giving a message to our body, well, eat this because you'll be able to survive longer having eaten it.
Yeah, exactly right. But my thinking is that, like, for instance, right now, I feel I am overweight. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And the thing is, see, over the last few days, I've consciously started just eating right, eating healthy fruits and vegetables, and cutting out carbs and cutting out, you know, bread. I mean, I love my croissants in the morning and shit like that. But, like, you know, cutting all of that out, you know, just to be healthy, just to come down, because, you know, being overweight, that it's just not fun. You know?
Doesn't it feel better now they're eating better?
Yeah, of course. You have more energy.
Absolutely.
You feel better.
Exactly.
You're more alert. You know.
Yeah.
And so there's no question about it, you know. But and the thing is also, you know, I want to get rid of this double chin. You know, it just drives me nuts. You know? Because I want to be as beautiful as God intended me to be. Anybody says something smart, you know, I'll off you on the chat. Oh, that's an awkward silence. No, but anyway, going back to the whole Twitter thing of like being like, you know, it lights you up when you're doing it. My problem with Twitter is that, I'll be honest, like when I do my YouTube videos, I'm careful and thoughtful. Even when I'm doing a stream like this, for instance, which is sort of like more relaxed and informal, I'm not going to say anything off the wall. And of course, I'm with, as it were, so I want to, you know, I want everybody to have a good time. But on Twitter, I find myself cutting loose, and just like a lot of people tweet a lot of stupid shit, and I catch myself, I find myself in the position of like, this guy is a fucking idiot, ta 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 on the keyboard, and just like, you know, flaming the guy.
Yeah, you're quite the Twitter troll, aren't you?
I am.
Dude,
Yeah.
I was talking to him about that the other day, man. Yeah. Coach really, if he has it out for somebody, he will go after him full force, like this, no holds barred, just completely like bam. Oh,
I know.
Like, I would never want to be on the opposite side of Coach.
Oh, come on, it's funny. Well, the thing is, see, I never do it with somebody that I respect, like you guys. I mean, I would disagree with you. I'd say, you know, like, Mouthy, what you're saying about, you know, X is totally wrong. It's Y, you know, and argue with you.
Didn't you call me a whore before?
I did not. This is the one time. This is the one time.
Oh my God.
Or was it more? Let me check. You know.
No, you did it that one time, but you said you were joking.
Oh yeah, but
damn you, Coach.
I was totally. Because I was totally.
This
okay.
is hilarious.
Oh man, now I'm sweating, man. It was totally kidding, because like today, for instance, you know that asshole T, that guy T, who's a lovely guy. You guys are laughing. I'm trying to tell a fucking story.
Sorry. Okay. Go.
No, I'm trying to get out of the hole that I'm in by telling another story about somebody else, so that everybody will forget that I must have said something stupid on Twitter, you know? And you guys are fucking up my vibe,
That's another
man.
problem. That is another problem with Twitter, dude. That is another problem. I always think about that, dude. I always think about that. Am I going to say something one day that just ruins my entire reputation? Or like,
man, I've said that so many times at this point that I have no reputation left.
Yeah, I've seen viral ones of the things that you said.
Oh, come on. The one I did on, what's his name? On the white guy who pretends to be black. What's his name?
Oh.
Sean King.
Yeah.
Sean King. Oh, yeah. That was priceless. That got like 35,000 impressions. I was very proud of that one. You know, I just totally flamed him. White guy pretending to be a black guy, pretending that white people are bad or some shit like that. It was just like, about Sean King, I mean, saying the truth about Sean King in a humorous manner. But the thing is, see, like, it, for me at least, it taps into my id, you know, and I can't, like, you know, and Brittany just snorted. You know, it just taps into my id, and I can't resist, man. And like when somebody says something stupid, I'm like, I feel like a shark, and it smells blood, and you know, I can't help myself, and you know, I'm a bad person. Oh well, I'm a bad person. What can I say?
No, don't. Here's the thing. Don't stop doing what you're doing, because I don't know if I do the same thing, but I do often worry that not only will Twitter ruin like my attention span, but I'll also say something so deplorable or awful in a state of mind that I'm just, you know, like maybe I was really mad or something. And what's crazy is there's no context when you post something. Like they don't know how you felt when you posted it. So there's a whole layer of context that people are unaware of when you post something, and it all comes to at you the same way. And I think there's a big problem with that there's like an illusion of sincerity where there might not be.
I've always thought that on Twitter, what would be really good would be like a functionality. Follow this idea. Imagine that on any given tweet, you could have it be removed by a certain time. Like for instance, if you're tweeting with somebody something trivial about like what you're going to do that afternoon, you can say that the expiration date on the tweet would be the expiration time on the tweet would be like say 6 hours, just for the sake of argument. And in another tweet, it could be like a week. It could be like, oh no, I want it permanently on my feed. Because what happens is that you check on somebody's feed, and you go through their feed, right? And they're saying sensible things or amusing things or whatever, and then all of a sudden tweets that are written in the span of like an hour, and then it's clearly they were having a fight with somebody, and all these tweets are all bundled together, and then it gets like normal again. And if you could like, have tweets that were like temporary and other tweets were like permanent, wouldn't that be like a great functionality?
Yeah, that would. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, for myself, if I ever tweet something that later I think, oh my God, I'll just delete it. But then you have this deleted tweet, and everybody can see that you did, and there's kind of like this moment of like somebody.
What did he
or
delete?
Like,
yeah.
Right. Like when I see someone delete something, there's this layer of perceived dishonesty, kind of. It's like, oh well, why did you have to do that? So I do like the idea of it running out, because then that perceived dishonesty isn't there.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it happens to me. I don't know if it happens to you guys. Is that there's like a long conversation with a lot of people. And then all of a sudden, some random response will happen. You'll respond to it, and then you'll realize later, oh shit, he was talking about something completely different. And your responses are completely inappropriate or completely wrong or just just the wrong tweet. And I gotta lay off Twitter. I just gotta lay off.
I
that
know,
fucking
dude.
thing.
Yeah,
it's fucking addictive.
Addictive. Yes, I have an idea for what we could talk about, because there's this. What do you guys think about the conspiracy popping up on YouTube right now of basically different YouTubers? I think Paul Joseph Watson actually exercised some restraint in denying the Vegas conspiracy, but there's basically the conspiracy. It's growing now, just like 9/11. It's growing online, so eventually someone's going to have to talk about it or cover it or whatnot. Have you guys heard anything about the different theories on what happened at Vegas?
No,
well, I haven't heard them specifically, but I have a vague idea of what they'll probably be about, and it boils down to the problem that, see, this guy went nuts for whatever reason, and my suspicion, but of course, it's pure speculation, is that probably the antidepressants that he was taking probably had a weird effect on him, like what happened with Tony Scott, the film director who jumped off a bridge for no good reason. It turned out that he'd recently gone on some like new anti-depression meds. I think that something like that, along those lines happened. I don't think there's any big conspiracy. I don't think that there were 5 shooters or whatever the hell they're saying. I'm assuming they're saying that, right?
Well, I mean, they're going all over the place. They're saying that Antifa is responsible for it. They're saying that ISIS did it, or they're saying that the Illuminati was behind it because the door. I know, like because the floor number was 32. The brother's
George
house,
Soros, the shooter.
George Soros. the brother's house address was 32, and like the number of guns was 32. And how could you? Yes, I know, dude. I know this is where it's going.
And it's the opposite of 23. Have you noticed? 32 is the opposite of 23. There's
I know, yeah. And they're saying like, how could he have shot these huge guns inside without proper earwear, because his ears would have gone out? And they're claiming that he actually, like the photo of him on the floor is fake. And people are even going as far as to say that the actual footage of people in the streets running around, like running from the bullets, is a staged coordinated event. So just wait, because all of this is going to start growing online, and you're going to, and I know I'm going to be the one who's going to have to be like, well, hold on a second. This is like a whole bunch of a priori assumptions. We don't know, but I just know that I'm going to be getting attacked because a lot of people are going to see this as pure truth. You know, this was a government inside job to take our guns. They're already banning the stocks or whatever, and they're going to say, oh yeah, this is just one step to totalitarianism.
Oh God, yeah. Actually, this is kind of interesting because all this conspiracy theory shit, right? As far as I'm concerned, and as far as I'm concerned, it's all bullshit. You know, my thinking is that, you see, it's because of the discrepancy between the mainstream narrative and what's actually happening in a whole host of other things that are important. And in fact, I was doing a video today about this issue of red pilling and what it means and stuff like that. I'm going to post it in a couple of days. But my point is this. See, we've been having over the last about 15 years or so, but especially over the last 5 years, is that the mainstream is saying one narrative about what's going on. The mainstream, not just the mainstream media, but mainstream society, the center, the political center that sort of like embarks the political left and the political right. The center left, rather, and the center right, and the center, right? That mainstream, which used to encompass, say, 90% of the population, okay, and you'd have like a 5% fringe of commies and a 5% fringe of neo-Nazi, you know, KKK, right? Now that political center has shrunk because there is a growing discrepancy between what the mainstream is saying and what's actually going on in the world, what's actually going on in the Western democracies. And people perceive that. That's the reason channels like ours are as popular as they are, because people want, you know, like what's really going on, and they recognize that the mainstream media is not giving it to them, right? And so what happens is that kind of skepticism as to the mainstream media can eventually, and perhaps inevitably, conspiracy theories. Because see, the mainstream media, to give an example, the mainstream media says that the mass immigration is a good thing and we should embrace it and blah, 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 right? And people on the ground say, holy cow, all these immigrants, right? They're raping and stealing and murdering and knifing people, and it's causing all kinds of social havoc. So the mainstream is saying one thing, but the reality on the ground is totally different, and there's a gap, right? But what happens is that you start to become more and more skeptical about everything, and so when things, as they appear to be, when the mainstream media, when the mainstream society is actually saying things that are true,
right,
you don't believe them.
Yeah.
No, they lied about this other shit, so they're lying about this too, so there must be something more, and they go into these weird conspiracy theories. That's my thinking. What do you guys think of this?
Yeah, that definitely
Anybody want to? Yeah.
I mean, I don't trust mainstream media,
Britt,
but I wouldn't go so far to put theory as fact. You know?
No. You know, it's that these crazy conspiracy theories, a lot of them don't even make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like for instance, you know, I lived in New York, about 3 blocks away from the World Trade Center, and I moved away on the 11th of August 2001. Swear to God, I lived on 85 Pearl Street, right, you know, 3 blocks diagonal from the World Trade Center, and so I missed the whole event, right? But the thing is, see, they keep saying that one of the buildings must have been demolished, you know? And like, I knew that area real well, okay? There is no way in hell that any kind of demolition team could have, like, you know, set up a building to demolish it. There's simply no way, you know, because, and in point of fact, I've seen demolitions, right? You know, not because I was involved with them, but because, you know, one time I happened to be near a place where they had like a demolition, right? And the thing is, see, it takes an enormous amount of effort and coordination, and it's like a whole thing, right? How could you keep that shit secret? But, you know, conspiracy theories believe that shit because they're no longer trusting narrative, because the mainstream narrative has lied about a lot of things that retrospectively we realize that, you know, were not true. Like, for instance, that Hillary is going to be president. You know, like mass migration is a great thing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Orwell, you got anything on that?
Well, I mean, you can see people going to the fringes, and it is partly driven by the mainstream media's inconsistency. One moment they'll say, oh, Europeans need to stop having kids right now, it's bad for the environment, but we need to bring in millions of migrants from Africa and the Middle East. And then other times they'll say diversity is a strength, and then they'll just turn around and say, well, I mean, this is your punishment for imperialism. So they have absolutely no consistency, and more people on the fence, on the political fence, are just going to start waking up and saying, well, why the hell are they saying all this crap? What else have I been lied to? So it's no surprise that people are flocking to conspiracy theories because they just want the truth. And if the mainstream media has just bombarded them with falsehoods all their lives, they're just gonna maybe turn to another extremity.
Right. Yeah, I like what Coach was saying in regards to there are obvious times when the majority of MSM is actually telling the truth, or at least they're not flat out fabricating as they so often do. And I mean, there's a huge danger that I don't think enough of us are talking about when we lose the mainstream media, when we lose that outlet for providing us information, because then who do we leave it up to? Well, we leave it up to alternative media, most of whom don't have journalistic integrity, or who don't know what it, well, I'm not claiming that MSM has journalistic integrity, but what I'm saying is that this responsibility of providing the truth is a very important responsibility, and I don't think a lot of us are taking on that responsibility effectively enough. I think a lot of the alternative media is frivolous with it and is irresponsible with it and makes exaggerated claims, like Alex Jones, for instance. I like Alex Jones because he's entertaining and he makes me laugh. But at the end of the day, I don't go to him for hard-hitting truth claims about the nature of reality.
Yeah, even if they do provide a breaking story, I will be very apprehensive in sharing it just because of their reputation.
Yeah, and I just wish we could find someone. And you know what? I think that Paul Joseph Watson actually is. He's obviously trying to hold the torch here, and I think that that's why when it came to the Vegas conspiracies, he debunked all of them. And that's the first time I've ever seen him exercise restraint in regards to an obvious growing conspiracy online. So that's a good sign that we have somebody like Paul Joseph Watson, who I don't really like his videos because they're just so obnoxious, and at a certain point it's just like, dude, we get it. Like, the world sucks, but just chill. Like,
no, that's part of the shtick, you know?
It is. It's so. It is. It is part of a shtick. And like, but he just sometimes he's so intense with it that he actually makes me feel sorry for Muslims, because he's just like, oh, poor Muslim, and it's like, bro.
Yeah, but you're not in Europe. You're not in Europe. You got to be here in Europe. Then you'd understand. Then it makes complete sense. I mean, yeah, but I don't want to. What?
Coach, it's all right. I mean, the BBC, the state-funded BBC is going to provide you with tips as to how you can do your makeup after an acid attack. It's all good, man.
Oh my god.
Very true. Yeah, I'm not. I totally understand.
About Paul Joseph Watson, it's really interesting because I've noticed that he's distancing himself from Alex Jones. I think that it won't be long before he goes on his merry way. Sort of like with a good handshake, good, like a good, not like kicked out, not like what happened with Rebel Media, which was kind of fascinating how that whole ship imploded, But no, I think that Paul Joseph Watson is going to leave because somebody was, sending around some meme of a video of Alex Jones going off on some rant, and they were playing, they were showing Paul Joseph Watson's face, and the "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend" song was playing. And it just looked like, cringy as fuck. I mean, he looked like a guy who's like, oh man, the boss is saying some stupid shit and I can't say anything here, Hello?
I did hear about that video too, and I think, you guys are right, because I've seen videos of Paul Joseph Watson like 3 or 4 years ago where he just talks about 9/11 and trutherism and stuff like that, and he's just kind of just, you know, he's gone off to do his own thing. He's got his really successful YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers. So maybe he's just trying to distance himself from the more conspiratorial side of InfoWars.
He is. He totally is, and that's refreshing because it's setting a good example, or at least I think he knows the responsibility that's bestowed on him, because he could have totally, just for clicks or for whatever, like made this conspiracy theory valid. But he knows that if he debunks it, that's going to help, you know, clarify a lot. Plus, it's absolutely absurd. Like, just the idea that the Illuminati or the New World Order is behind that gun shooting it's just totally
stupid. It's a stupid.
It's absurd.
It's completely absurd. But also, you know, it speaks to the fact that, you know, we don't want some nobody nowhere and cause such a tragedy. Right? We want there to be like a bigger reason. And it's a natural human impulse.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Why did this happen? Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy, right? He was a nobody. He was a nothing, you know? And he did it, okay? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's no grassy knoll shit, you know, there's second gunman, none of that crap. You know, it was just some one lone loser did it. You know, he was successful, and we all want there to be like a bigger deal to it. But here's the weird thing. See, conspiracies tend to focus on things that I think are sort of trivial. Like, for instance, with the 9/11 stuff, everybody focuses on like one of the buildings being demolished, and it's all like a secret operation funded by George Soros or some crap like that. But they don't actually look at the fact that, you know, all of these terrorists were Saudis, and they were all funded by people friendly to the Saudi regime. And the Saudi regime didn't get any, I mean, no consequences. I mean, they essentially, and there's a suspicion that they knew about it, perhaps beforehand, because there was some weird short selling of it happened. I mean, stuff that should not have happened on an ordinary trading day, but it happened. And it gives a sense that somebody knew something before it happened and made a lot of money off of it. You know, they focus, the conspiracy theories focus on weird shit, but I don't know. It seems like a rabbit hole. But going back to the Paul Joseph Watson thing, I think that I think he's a very smart man, and I think that he really showed himself that he wants to go more mainstream because he used to identify as alt-right until Richard Spencer did that whole "Hail Trump, Hail Victory" thing at last November.
He identified with the term alt-right until he realized it was about white identity. And then he was like, oh, shit, let me back up from this. Yeah. He thought alt-right was just like the kind of alt-light. I think that's what Paul Joseph Watson is, alt-light.
Yeah, well, he thinks that the whole, this movement is like the punk movement. And I think he's correct, I think. I think that it is very similar to the punk movement. And the movement that all of us are, in my own case, at least marginally part of, is I think it's sort of like a punk movement, like a sort of like trying to smash the windows of the establishment. I think that the right wing is the punk movement, but
I mean I like the idea. I know that the majority of satire and creativity and music and humor is moving to the right, and that's bizarre. I've never. I know that since I've been alive, most of the creativity and people have always been on the left or been more progressive. But there does seem to be a jump of satire, at least, obviously, that's just dominating, at least in the political sphere, the right wing of politics.
One of the things I can tell you, because I have a background in publishing, and so I can tell you that what I have realized retrospectively is that the publishing industry, for example, has been a lot more SJW than people realize. That's why so many of the serious novels, all of the serious novels that are published today, they are, one and all, left-wing or left-tilted in their political view, multicultural and all that shit, right? Because all the people who are picking the novels, they all have this ideology. And so they go to college, they go to colleges like Sarah Lawrence, to Vassar, to Smith, to some of the Ivies, some of the good liberal arts schools like Amherst and what have you. They go to publishing because, see, In publishing, you have these unpaid internships. So who goes? People who have money. And people who have money right now tend to go to the good schools, and those good schools are very, very liberal, quote unquote progressive, right? The publishing industry has been for decades dominated by the SJW mentality, and the only novels that get published, the serious novels, the literary novels that get published, a politically right slant. And the serious novel, I mean, let me phrase that. A right-wing serious novelist does not get published, period. The publishing industry will put out these like, you know, Brad Thor books, these apparently right-wing books that are really just pulp fiction, because they know that there's a market for them. Serious right-wing fiction, they will not publish it, and I know this for a fact. So, and this happens in all the arts. So it's not an issue that the left is more creative. What's happened is that the left has a chokehold, sure, and they will not allow politically deviant viewpoints into it. And you see it in everything. You see it in literature. You see it in painting. You see it in what other art form? I can't think of. My head's going blank right now. But you see it in every. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, the long march through the institutions is now complete, and you're not allowed to have any dissenting opinions. If not, you'll get completely blackballed. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, you know, the painters and everybody, they have to be, you know, good progressives, or else they simply will not have a career. You know, it's as simple as that. I mean, the best that somebody can do is be politically apolitical. But if they have, I mean, so far as divergence from this progressive politics, but in the arts, in the serious arts, there's no room for diversity of viewpoint. It's one line.
I was thinking about that the other day. I think the only exceptions would be Bruce Willis, who I love, and love more because you know,
that's
he's
different.
Not afraid to.
Yeah, but that's film. Yeah. Film is too expensive to be a money loser.
But so many actors and actresses in Hollywood, they're kind of mired in a culture you would have to admit is predominantly on the left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that the exceptions within that progressive culture would have to be probably Bruce Willis and what's the other guy who like I don't know. Oh, Clint Eastwood, who I don't know if y'all remember him making that speech.
God help us.
He's just he's so old, and it didn't really come off that well. But
James Woods.
Right. But yeah, I think it's actually not. I think that it's just that's the culture they're mired in, or that's the echo chamber they're mired in. I know that I'm surrounded in this echo chamber. I mean, when I look to my YouTube, it's just surrounded by people who validate my views, and you know, it's good for me to step outside of that every now and then. But it's hard because it's literally the culture that I'm surrounded in. It's just everyone is kind of against leftist authoritarianism, and then also most of us are kind of mildly okay with right-wing authoritarianism. I'm not, but I know that a lot of people in this community are.
Yeah, no, in my case, I'm not in favor of any authoritarianism. I mean, I'm, you know, a pro-democracy, pro-representative democracy all the way. But yeah, a lot of people who are in the same foxhole, shooting in the same direction, so far as shooting at SJWs and shooting at progressivism and cultural Marxism, yeah, a lot of them are into stuff that I certainly want nothing to do with. And then again, there's the other group. Okay, you have the alt-right. I'm not a member of the alt-right, and I don't agree with a lot of the issues. Predominantly, I think the issue of ethnicity being the source of political unity. I am very much against that because I think it leads nowhere. Okay, but be that as it may, so I don't identify as alt-right. I don't identify as alt-light either because, to tell you the truth, they feel like a bunch of opportunists. Like Cernovich and they just seem like that they just want to take over that they want to be the new establishment, that they want to shove aside, the people who are currently in leadership positions in the Republican Party and take it over, and just start spewing the same shit that they are still spewing. Okay, so the alt-right does not seem to me like an agent of change. I want the end of neoliberal economic policies, and I want the end of the welfare state. I want the end of it like completely, because I'm like, my position so far as social services is that the government should not be involved in any kind of social service, and everybody should fend for themselves. Well,
hold on. Let me push against that real quick. So,
sure.
So what would you say to the person who cannot, who doesn't have the mental faculties to be able to help themselves, or who has found themselves in a position where they can't get up on their 2 feet? What happens to them? No, that's not. Okay, well, for me, for me, that's not. Yeah, tough shit.
Sorry for playing. You in the next life.
This is where my liberal bones kick in, because I think that we should have some system that provides safety for those who can't help themselves. Because typically in a society, you will find people like that 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 they're in a pickle, they're in a situation, and they need our help. And I think that I wouldn't mind putting some shekels his or her way.
Well, okay, then you can do that as a private thing. As a private thing, I'm not opposed to private charity, sure, but the government?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Go ahead.
I agree with you, Coach. And one of the things that you notice is that something like 85% of the money that's earmarked towards the welfare state gets absorbed in bureaucracy and overheads, whereas something like 35% of charitable donations get absorbed in overheads and administration and the like. Where
though? Like, are you talking about Switzerland, or because you're not talking about Switzerland?
In the US, I believe. It's just a statistic I saw. But one of the interesting things is you look at the Nordic countries which have ginormous welfare states and huge income tax rates. Their charitable donations per capita as a proportion of their individual GDP, absolutely minimal. It doesn't happen. I think that's a pretty good measure for social cohesion, that when people's tax rates increase so much and they're told it's to help their fellow person, the fellow men, they don't actually look towards being charitable themselves, because they think that duty's been taken care of, in that you've had 60% of your income taken away by the state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
You're right. Go ahead.
I mean, when it comes to economics, I'm completely ignorant and have no idea about economics. I think my general point is that we have to grapple with the fact that there are people who need help in society who aren't as able as the rest of us. Now, I totally believe in a hierarchy of positions and capitalism, and that there are different people are suited for different things, and we can create the avenues for everyone. But there is still going to be those people that need our help. So you either have to say, well, too bad, or you say, okay, let's go ahead and help them. And I'm on the side that says, let's go ahead and help them.
I agree with you. We should help them, but I think there are better ways of doing it than the state. I mean, what's limiting the state to extend it to the welfare state we have now, where it's basically ruined whole inner cities in America? In the UK, a third of the UK budget goes towards social programs. How the hell do you limit that? The Daily Telegraph published an article about a month and a half ago where they found that 50.5% of the adult population claims some help from the state in some form. I mean, how are you going to pay off your national debts when so many people are addicted on the state apparatus? There are other ways to do it.
I think that. Well, I what I'm wondering is whether or not you are. So what you're saying is, as soon as the state gets involved in, or as soon as people come together to provide help to a certain, not so well off community, and as soon as the state gets a hold of this, it blows up out of proportion, and then it just gets way too insane. Is that kind of the claim, that the state gets too big and it becomes a nanny
No,
state
no, no.
immediately?
There are two claims. Number one, that the nanny state is inherently inefficient, which is an easy one to prove. The second one is that the nanny states help to people, in point of fact, rather than helping them, hurts them in the long run. Now, the thing I want to read here that I looked up real quick is something called the Negro Family, the Case for National Action. This was also known as the Moynihan Report. This was written in 1965. And I'm going to read it real quick, the first paragraph from Wikipedia. The Negro Family, the Case for National Action, known as the Moynihan Report, 1965. Patrick Moynihan, at the time an American sociologist serving as Assistant Secretary of Labor under Lyndon Johnson. Okay, his report focused on the deep roots of black poverty in the United States and controversially concluded that the high rate of families headed by single mothers would greatly hinder progress of blacks towards economic and political equality. Okay, this was back in 65, 52 years ago. Okay, now what he wrote there in that report turned out to be true, because at that time, you know, single families headed by single mothers were far fewer in 1965, and the problems of black economic and political inequality have increased precisely to the degree that there have been more and more black families headed by single mothers. He was right. It was controversial at the time, but facts proved him out. We have half a century of data that, you know, supports every single conclusion that appeared in that report back in 1965. And by the way, I recommend that everybody read it. It's a really interesting report. But the point, the nanny state is what created the conditions for single mothers to be able to survive. Had the nanny state not been there giving them EBT cards and you know, and the different programs over the years, right? Those women would have been far more careful about getting pregnant, because they would have known that the state would not be there to save them. They would have been much more careful insofar as getting pregnant, or there would have been a lot more societal pressure on the father to stay and quote unquote man up and be the breadwinner provider for the woman and their child. It is there, since the state will happily just give out an EBT card and load it up with credit so that the woman can have as many babies as she wants to. And those babies, because it's a single parent household, they don't get the care and attention that children born into two-parent households get. Okay? And so this is a big part of the reason the state, by giving money to people or giving them assistance in however shape or form that assistance may be, in the long run. And, you know, quite frankly, we need a society where there is the real possibility of failure, because that's bottom line what's going on here. And of course, there are going to be people who fail, who are homeless, who are, are starving perhaps. Be a cost that we as a society are willing to tolerate because it maintains the overall health of the society. Because my contention is that the current society, based on the nanny state, is sick. Does anybody disagree, realistically?
No, I agree with you. And there's way too many people taking advantage of the system.
Oh, and just look at the black. Community. They're nearing 80% single motherhood rates now.
80%. Okay.
They're nearing 80%.
Oh my God.
Yeah, overall in the United States, it's 40%. 40% of children born in the United States today are born to single mothers. 40%. Oh no. Sorry. Unmarried couples. It could be that they're together but not married. But still,
the statistic that Larry Elder often cites is that children from single mother households are 5 times likelier to live in poverty, 9 times likelier to not complete high school, and 20 times likelier to end up in jail.
Yeah.
So that's something you really want to avoid. I mean, there are some other things that play here, such as the war on drugs, which has incarcerated millions of people for not committing violent crimes. But you've got to look at the root cause, and the root cause all started with LBJ's Great Society. There's a graph in, I don't know if you guys have read the Bell Curve by Charles Murray and Richard Herrnstein.
Yes.
there's a graph there where you see absolute poverty declining steadily over the years, and then round about the mid to late 60s, absolute poverty stops declining, tails off, and begins to increase again as you come into the 90s.
Yeah, but correlation is not necessarily causation. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I remember that bit from the book. Hello?
Well, I think that obviously everyone is right, but I think that there are still some exceptions when it comes to this. Like, again, if you look at Switzerland, which is they provide government subsidies to farmers who need it, and it's not overinflating, you know, people to not farm, or it's not ridding people of the incentive to do things, actually. And as for the incentive argument, I actually think that in about 20 or 30 years, technology is going to basically be the manufacturing industry, and that most people, I mean, some will have to kind of look over the machines, but there won't be that many jobs in these markets because technology is rising very rapidly.
Are you talking about the jobs in the Western democracies? Because they're gone already. So what are you talking about? You know,
I'm talking about even like fast food, even restaurants with like servers and stuff like that. It really gets into almost every aspect of the economy of labor.
Mm-hmm.
Any laborious job eventually is going to be used by technology. So what I'm saying is, now we're presented with the same pitfall that you guys are talking about, which I think is this incentive. We won't have incentive to do anything. If you give somebody that they're going to stay a single mom, or they're not going to go out and get work because they're on the quote nanny state. Well, let me ask this: what happens when technology takes over most of the job market, and we don't find value in work anymore? Well, then, wouldn't a universal basic income be like? What do you think of the idea of a universal basic income, of sending everybody the same money, and then them finding value in other creative endeavors?
Brittany, what do you think?
I think that would be disastrous.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
But this is not because it's a communist revolution. It's because we have no means of finding value in work anymore because work is gone. Work is no more. Technology does everything. What are we going to do? So I'm not saying that we need to move this way. I'm saying that things are going to be this way. So what do we do when things are this way?
Buddha, can I answer your question with another question?
Sure.
What will happen to the serfs if there are more factories open? What will happen to the aristocracies if more factories are open? I mean, it's the same question. We don't know what the future will bring. You had all these Luddites from the 1820s, 1830s, 1840s, whenever they took place, because they thought that technology was taking away people's jobs. And we don't know. There could be new jobs or services created. I mean, just think about it. 250 or so years ago, 98% of the population was in agriculture. Now only about 1% of the population in agriculture. The same could be said about manufacturing. We don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Good point.
But when it comes to universal basic income,
we already know.
Oh, go ahead,
yeah. That could be a terrible idea. I was just popping that out there. But we do know that the trend is technology is taking the jobs of human beings. We already see the trend going that way, and we see it increasing exponentially every year. So we know that's happening. But I think, and you're right, Orwell's right. Like, I don't know either. I think that there's an ethical bump we're going to have to get past, which is, where do I find value in my life? Because I don't have to work. The people are doing everything. I just go outside and everything's already provided for me. Well, what do I do now? How do I find value without going to work? And this is going to be the next phase in human conscious evolution, I think.
Well, I think it would be disastrous, because it sounds to me like the problem that happens with the children of rich people. The children of rich people, they have to do anything. They can just fart around all day, and they get an allowance from their billionaire parents, right? And what winds up happening? They wind up being just junkies and crashing their cars and just being a mess.
Right. But I would argue
society of trust fund babies.
Oh God.
Hold on. No. I would argue that those children weren't taught. There's a value that's missing with those children, and that there's a
the state
principle
provide that principle.
No. See, you're so okay. Look, there's this Western way of looking at experience, which I think happens when we start asking these questions about value, which is, well, I need to go work. Damn it, I need to go do my 9 to 5. You know what I mean? And that's totally fine, and it's understandable because it is what has given us value for so long. But it's going, it's leaving, it won't be here. And I think that the value has to be. It has to be some new ethic, some new thing.
Here's my objection. I mean, first of all, going back to your basic premise that technology and robots and what have you will vastly create most of the manufacturing and will make a lot of people lose their jobs. Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. It is already happening, and we are seeing that, and more is happening in different venues, including places where you wouldn't have expected, like the law and architecture and so on and so forth. So that I'm not disagreeing with you at all. The notion of just giving a basic income, as opposed to just having people, now that they don't have a job, they're going to have to find something else in order to have money to survive. And that will provide the incentive for the next breakthrough in whatever comes after manufacturing.
Well, see, just think in Notes from the Underground by Dostoevsky basically destroys the idea of utopia, because what will we do? I mean, people need problems. They need to have challenges in their lives. And going back to what Coach said about trust fund babies, it's interesting because I think people who don't work for a couple of generations tend to exhibit all these morally decrepit behaviors, and they tend to be socially destructive. And the same can be said about all these rich kids who don't have to work very hard, don't have to lift a finger because they're just pampered with all these luxuries, that they just become destructive. And you always hear the phrase that shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve within 3 generations, because that work ethic just disappears. And unfortunately, unless you're not constantly producing, you're consuming. And eventually what your riches are going to be fully consumed. And this is my major qualm with one of the social democratic welfare model you see in Europe. There's been no net job creation in the Nordic countries or Belgium in the last 50 to 60 years because people are just living off the fat of the land. You've got to keep producing. If not, you'll have capital consumption where capital goods will become obsolescent, and basically you'll just see a reversion in the standard of living.
Well, so you read The Bell Curve. Have you also read Coming Apart by Charles Murray?
No, I haven't gone around.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, Charles Murray is actually for this, or he provides an argument for universal basic income. And the way that he says it does make sense. Now, he totally grapples with the idea that you'll lose this incentive to go out and do things but that after that initial hit, this new, I'm completely butchering it, but if you want to take a look at somebody who can talk about this a lot better than me.
So he's basically saying that the first generation will take a hit, but then the second generation will get used to it, that kind of thing?
Right, like they'll after a human system is provided these things, then the next one figures out new ways to make itself fulfilled. I really don't know how to explain it the way he did, but like I don't know, I'm butchering it. But if you want to take a look at somebody who could talk about it better, I would suggest reading Coming Apart by Charles Murray.
Well, anyway, you are advocating a universal basic income. Why?
No. I'm not advocating. I'm just providing it as a kind of a thought for food for thought. I totally am behind the idea that we as Westerners find fulfillment in going to work and then getting money for that work, and then getting food and paying for things. But that I, as somebody who also reads a lot of Eastern philosophy and that kind of thing, I know that that's kind of an illusion of experience, that we we think we're finding fulfillment, but it's actually quite fleeting, and that, you know, in a very cliche sense, fulfillment is already in our experience all the time. It's just a matter of, you know, seeing our experience from a different perspective. But I'm not under any stupid illusions that America or any Western country, which is predominantly like, you know, let's do this, let's bite it by the bullet, let's work, is going to get there in any capacity consciously. But I think that we're going to be forced to. We're going to be forced into this ethical position where we don't have jobs, and what do we do? And I think that's a very intriguing question about the human experience, which is, what do we start helping others? Is that where we start finding value?
In a sense, that's already happening in the United States, because, you know, the Social Security numbers are not increasing, but disability is. Okay, and a lot of people who are basically chronically unemployed, because they used to be, you know, blue collar, working class, lower middle class people who would have ordinarily gotten some sort of manufacturing position at some factory, and with that income would have been able to provide for their family and have a house and all the rest of it. Those people, a lot of them, are basically cheating the system. This is something that people aren't really talking about very much, but the disability rolls, medical disability, it's increasing, I mean, drastically over the last few years, over the last decade and a half, because of the globalization and the offshoring of labor. And so these people simply do not have any opportunity, and so they've figured out how to game the system, which is claim disability and you get a check for life. Yeah, that's basically what's going on in a lot of areas. Now, so in a sense, although I totally disagree with this basic income idea, we are de facto seeing it already. These people who cannot find work, and so they as a last recourse, or maybe a first recourse, I don't know, but they are doing it. Now, what are these people doing? They're just sitting on their asses watching TV and doing nothing.
Well, hold on here. Let's switch to Switzerland again, which I think is an example of the greatest society in the world, bar none.
Mm-hmm. You've been there?
No, I've never been there, but I read all about it.
I've been there a lot.
Damn
you.
You.
It's not what you think. It's not what you think. Okay.
Oh, really? Oh, you don't like it?
I love
exactly.
it.
Yes. Well, yeah. And that's the point. Which is,
awesome. You know, Switzerland is like this great place, but it has Swiss people. That's the only problem.
And what's the problem with them?
What's the problem with the Swiss?
Yeah.
Two problems. Okay. I don't care. They have two problems. All right. Number one, they love nothing but money. And number two, they are the most boring people on the face of the planet.
Well, there you go.
They are just boring, just in every way. And they are money obsessed. There's no other way to put it. I mean, everything to them is about money.
Rich. Yeah.
And you know, at every level. Okay, I'm not talking about just like executive people. I'm talking like the waitress at the restaurant. I'm talking about everybody. Okay, the only thing that they care about is money. Money. It is really weird, because I myself am not a particularly greedy person. I'm sort of like, oh, great, I got some money. Ooh, yippee, let's go and have a party. But they are greedy and they love money. And it's not what it's cracked up to be. But go ahead, because there are a lot of things I find admirable about them. And one of the things I think that of the Western democracies, one of the things I would implement is the Swiss idea of having a compulsory military service that everybody has to do it, and they have to do 2 years of it. And if they don't like it, you know, they go to jail for those 2 years. I think that's a great idea, because it would create national cohesiveness, which I think is sorely lacking in the Western democracies. But anyway, go ahead. I totally interrupted your.
Well, no, it's fine. I know that I think in 2016, Switzerland had a referendum for universal basic income, where they would they did say no, but I think it was like 25% actually voted yes. But
but in any democratic election, 75 to 25%. That's pretty pretty brutal.
It's
pretty brutal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still it's more than I would have thought. But do they have healthcare, universal healthcare, correct?
I actually don't know, but I'm guessing that, yeah, probably.
I'm pretty sure they do. So how do you explain that? Is it because it's a smaller society that's more homogenous that they're able to get away with this stuff?
No, I think it's because
they're divided into cantons.
Yeah, well, yeah,
yeah, right, okay.
But I think it doesn't matter really if it's divided into cantons or not. The fact is, I think that it's because they make more demands on the citizenry. Or let me rephrase it. It's not that the state makes these demands. The state is expressing the will of the people, of demanding of the people certain obligations. For instance, the compulsory military service. Also, Switzerland, it's expensive and hard to live in. You got to keep in mind what the Swiss. Who are they? They are the people who lost, civil wars or civil strife in Italy, Germany, and France, and went to the Alps, which were a wasteland. And these were the losers of history. And they bundled together and eked out a living in this extremely inhospitable chunk of land. I mean, you ever been to Switzerland? Well, no. I mean, if you go to Switzerland, it's all mountains, and it looks really, really pretty. If you're sitting inside your luxury hotel with a big picture window, right, and you see all the snow and the Alps, and it's oh so pretty. But if you're actually out there of the Alps, freezing your ass off, right, when a snowstorm hits or something, it's hard life, okay, and what's interesting is, of course, Switzerland it is very difficult to make a living in Switzerland. I mean, not today. I'm talking like throughout history, because it is inhospitable, and yet they are per capita one of the richest countries in the world. Look at Japan. Japan, same thing. Japan does not have enough land to feed its population. It has historically been an inhospitable place, among the richest places on earth. It's the places where everything is comfortable that are poor. Where, like Brazil, you're walking around the jungle and there's fruit literally falling on your head. I mean, like the mangoes just fall off the tree the second that they're ripe, and you can just eat them. And like, hey, just live a great life, right? And how is it poor? It seems to me that difficulty is what makes success for people, for every organism. You guys ever heard of the Calhoun mouse paradise experiment?
No.
Okay. Well, you should. Actually, Teal Deer did an episode on it, a whole episode on it. It's fucking fascinating. One of you guys look up Teal Deer's stuff and check out Calhoun is the name of the investigator. It was the mice paradise experiment. It was very simple. What this investigator called Calhoun did, and his team, they did this several times. And the basic idea was that they built this cage, and it was like this big cage that could hold, I don't remember how many, but let's say like 10,000 mice, comfortably support them, right? And this cage, it had like little rooms and everything. It was like a little hotel. It was like a mouse paradise because they got water, they got food. It was at the perfect temperature. Okay, there were no predators. Okay, and there was waste disposal, and they didn't get sick or anything. It was like this paradise, and everybody was happy. Right. So what happened was that the population, they put in, like, say, I forget how many it was, but say they put in 20 males and 20 females. And very quickly, these 20 males and 20 females, the 40 mice started to grow in population. And they grew and grew and grew in this mouse paradise, and everything was hunky-dory. But after a while, they started noticing weird degeneracies in the mouse population. Like, for instance, they talk about one called, what they described as the beautiful ones. They were these male mice that were completely uninterested in sex, and they spent their entire time grooming themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, and they groomed themselves like obsessively, and they were like perfect and beautiful and pristine, right? And that, yeah. Then they noticed also that some female mice became masculinized, and some male mice became effeminate. They started noticing how some of the female mice would start to devour their young the second they were born, even though there were no predators, right? They started noticing how some of the male mice became the dominant alpha and would have like all the females, and there'd be like this rather large group of males that had no sexual access to any mouse. They were just virgins, and so they wound up copulating with each other sometimes, and just basically being miserable, right? And they started seeing how some male mice essentially developed harems, and they would control territory. And well, what was interesting was that after a few generations, I forget how many, but the population of the mice never hit the peak insofar as the cage was concerned. They never got to 10,000. They only got to, like, say, 3,500. It was less than half of the potential. And the population started to decrease, and eventually they disappeared. And they ran the experiment like 4 times, and every single time, eventually all the mice disappeared, okay? Because the mouse paradise killed them, because they needed the stress of predators. They needed the stress of having to find their own food and finding their own water. The fact that they had no stress is what eventually killed them. It's a fascinating experiment because also it ties in very neatly. Yeah. You guys never heard of that?
No, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean,
yeah, it is. You read that experiment and you start looking at the society, our current society, with transsexuals, homosexuals,
well,
morbidly obese people. What?
I'm with you. But here's the one thing I find different about rats and humans. And the biggest difference is that our sentience is so much more powerful. And I think that obviously we can draw a correlation between, like, the trans identity movement and, you know, this kind of self-absorbed narcissism that occurs when you're just relaxed and you don't have anything to kind of do, and you're super safe. Sure. So I think that you're right. I think that it comes. We have to find a nice degree of all of those things. Just a little bit of push, but not too much to where you kind of, you know.
Exactly.
You know. So yeah.
So eliminate the nanny state. Eliminate the nanny state, and your problem solved. And everybody has to fend for themselves. See, that's where my argument is coming from.
Okay, but hold on. Let me see if we can rephrase that another, because I don't like this idea of fending for ourselves. Something about that seems anti-humanistic. There's something about it that maybe it's just the phrasing. Maybe we could say we could all just be responsible for ourselves.
Okay, we can all be responsible for ourselves, and nobody gets a handout.
Right, yeah, okay.
Okay, so now you're on board?
Well, no, I'm not really on board. I still think that at the end of the day, we have to grapple with if we think every human life has value, and if we think that there are human lives who are about to die and who need help, we have to grapple with what we do with them. And if it's charity, then that's your argument. But I just don't think that's...
My argument is I'm not against charity. Okay, I'm not saying that, oh yeah, the government is going to shoot anybody who gives a hot meal to somebody poor. No. Okay, what I'm saying is that the government should not be involved in the business of charity, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the government, the nanny state is being the giant tit that poor people suck off of, and we want to wean them off it, right? Because for the good of the society in the long run.
So why should, now again, I'm just being devil's advocate here. There's a little bit of my own view in this, but not really.
No, you're not being devil's advocate, because what I'm saying is way outside the mainstream. I mean, yeah, I'm not alt-right, because, you know, the alt-right is like, oh, he's too extreme for us, maybe. You know, I think that's what's going on, because I genuinely believe that this should be eliminated. The nanny state, the whole Bismarckian kind of Democrat shit. Torpedo the whole thing.
Let me ask you this. Would you admit that it's easier for some people, a lot easier, to afford quality health care than it is, and that it's nearly impossible for others to afford shitty health care?
Yep.
Okay, so why are you okay with that difference? And if so, why?
Yeah, because some are lucky and some ain't.
I'm not okay with that. There's an ethical...
No, nobody has a right to anything. You don't. Just because, you know, just...
Well, under the Constitution, we have a right to the pursuit of happiness, and I would include in that...
but not the guarantee of success in that pursuit now, right?
True, but I mean, I see something as getting sick and going to a hospital as being... That should be included, or at least that's the argument. Well, why? Because it's a basic necessity of the human condition that we all get sick, we all fall down, we all...
Some people destroy themselves, though.
Brittany,
people
go
are-
ahead.
So is food. So is
Yeah.
food. Where do you stop with this?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Because,
well,
nobody has the right to somebody else's labor. If you say that healthcare is the right, you don't just rope in the doctors and the medical stuff. You also rope in the janitors, saying, well, you have these people have a right to your labor, so it's effectively slavery.
well, but it's not slavery to the person who gets help. So if you talk about it in Canada, for instance, which I know we can talk about all the problems that they have over there, but to them, this idea of them being able to go to the doctor for free being slavery is absolutely absurd. And there is a collective consensus of the people in Canada that they're totally fine with paying for people. It's not slavery. It's not, you don't have a right to my money. It's just, yeah, dude, we're kind of all, we're throwing in the pot. If we get hurt, it's all good. But so would you admit that it's not, it may be slavery to you, but that to many other communities, it's the antithesis of slavery. It's actually including people in a moral good. Or is it always slavery to you?
Well, it's always slavery because I mean you don't really have a choice in not paying for those fees. And if you're a doctor, I mean, you have the expressed obligation to provide healthcare to whoever it is. I mean, you can't say no. Obviously, with the Hippocratic Oath, you can't say no. I'm talking about my ass, but it's just if you say that healthcare is a right, then you've roped in everybody who works in a healthcare service to provide that right, no matter what.
But why should helping people who get sick with cancer or something like that, why should that be a profit motive in the first place? Why should people be making money? And if you're, I would assume the argument is that it's better that way because you get all these very good innovations when you have profit motive. Would that be the argument?
Well, over 80% of all medical innovations come from America.
Right.
Plus, I mean, the state has no incentive to treat people better than in a private industry. If people start dying in a private hospital, I mean, you're not going to get any more people to go there. But when it's under the NHS, they'll just draw out a lengthy process and nothing will get done. It gets more bureaucratized. Since the 1950s, there's been the introduction of 30 times more administrative staff than there are doctors. The waiting time in Canada is 3 times longer to get treatment than it is in America. So you can see there that there's a clear incentive under each system.
Right. I suppose there's a give and take. So the waiting time is bad, but you don't have people getting hurt and then having to pay, $50,000, $60,000 for an operation.
Well, the prices of healthcare would plummet if the government stopped regulating it so much. Don't forget that about half of your total healthcare bills are usually spent in the last 6 months of your life. Plus, when you see all these tragedies, you have people on the left complaining, well, this wouldn't happen if we had universal healthcare. Okay, granted, it might not happen. They'll get treated straight away. But if you see all these stories of people setting up GoFundMe pages and making literally hundreds of thousands of donations to pay for their treatment. People look after themselves in times of trouble. And this is what happens in a cohesive society.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I really do, because I don't know, dude. I don't have a real firm position on this because, again, I don't know anything about healthcare or economics. So I totally understand this idea that no one is owed the right to be able to have healthcare because that comes at the expense of other people's money. And that's not, like, you can't just take my money just because you want to and you want to go get a procedure done. And then this isn't even to account for all of the procedures that are frivolous or all of the things that are, just like tummy tuck surgeries or people going to addiction centers because they're addicts. I don't want my stuff going to that. So I totally get that. I think what I'm also doing is grappling with this idea that I also see the perception or the perspective of Canadians. I think there's a give and take to both things is what I'm trying to say. I think there's a really good argument to be made for both sides.
It also depends on the group of people. I mean, I think people living in Scandinavia, it's easier to arrange a whole healthcare system for them because there's more of a degree of ethnic homogeneity. You know, this is going to be pretty long-winded because there are. I mean, in the UK, that's where I'm originally from. There are examples of their own certain practices which spike the cost of healthcare. For example, in somewhere like Bradford, where there's a rate of 70% cousin marriages among the Pakistani community, the number one cause of death is birth defects, and that places an extra strain on the taxpayer, where consanguinity rates of native Brits is far lower than 70%. So somewhere like Sweden, which I mean, they have had their own little migrant crisis in recent years, but to some degree they're relatively ethnically homogeneous. And they're only a population of about 10 million compared to America. Imagine trying to arrange healthcare in America. It has to be on by state basis if you were to do that. And you probably have to give some states an opt-out clause because it might not be feasible in some places.
Right. Yeah, I totally understand that. Somebody in the chat said, "Oh, great! So he doesn't want to help addicts." I don't know if that was sarcastic, but if it was serious, that's not what I was claiming. Because I actually, as being an addict, I have gone to treatment centers, and my insurance ran out after the third treatment center that I went to, like when I was like 19, and I've been to 6 more after that. But after that, it was not really it was out of pocket. So, but no, I'm not saying that we shouldn't help. I understand that the idea of placing responsibility on a person and saying you have to help is the argument that might be unfair.
Well, that's what's going on now, because you have people who are being forced to, "Hey, Braving, how's it going?
What's up?
What up, Kev?"
Not a whole lot. Was just listening in.
What it do?
Sorry, up.
Tell me, okay, right now we're talking about basically something that I'm completely ignorant on, which is economics and healthcare. But hold on, because there are many people like with our general philosophy that do believe in, like, I know Richard Spencer wants, but I know you don't like him, but wants socialized medicine. What do you think about that of healthcare and this kind of debate? Do you think it should be a right?
See, I feel like the whole concept of rights to begin with, I have some questions and some apprehensions about that in the first place, because it seems to have been taken to this extent where people want to just claim anything as a right. But as far as healthcare goes, I sort of had a conversation with Fox from the West about this maybe a month or two ago. And my view on that is essentially, it's not that I'm completely against the idea of some sort of healthcare program, but you can't have it in a society where there's no standards of behavior and any lifestyle is acceptable. And like the CDC just recently released a report which found that rates of sexually transmitted disease transmission are at an all-time high. That's the kind of society we have where any behavior is permissible and there's no expectations of anybody. There's no standards put on anybody. And so I don't think having a healthcare system without any sort of standards of behavior is a great idea. Or like Orwell was just we were just talking about how there are certain areas of the UK where there are issues with cousin marriage. I know the obesity rate in the UK is pretty high. It's almost as high as the US, if I remember correctly. So it's that kind of thing where you can't tell people that they can just do whatever they want and let them behave however they want and take on any risk factors they want, and then also say, okay, well, we'll just take care of any bad thing that happens to you, or any negatives that you that you have to deal with as a result of those risk factors.
We were talking about fat acceptance earlier as well. So just You're right. Enabling all these poor behaviors, people are just fine with exploiting the system as much as they want. Just go to an accident and emergency in any UK town on a Saturday night. It's full of fucking drunks. It's just brimming with drunks who've just been in fights, have had accidents, been stabbed, you name it. But these kind of behaviors didn't happen like 50, 60 years ago, and there was no system to exploit it. You'd rethink your choices if that wasn't an option.
Right. So I guess my answer in short is that I'm not really strong.
Hello?
You muted your mic, Rune.
Sorry. Let me fix that really quick. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. Yeah, I was playing PUBG and it messes with my microphone for some reason. But what I was saying is that I'm not really strongly in favor of or against a healthcare system on principle. It's just that under the current circumstances where anything is allowed and nothing is expected of anybody, and you can just, we have this like libertine mindset of just do whatever you want and who cares. I don't think it's a good combination.
No, my thinking is that the current healthcare situation, the healthcare system in the United States at least, so much of the cost, the inflated cost, is because of bad incentives. I think also the problem is that the insurance companies and big pharma have an inherent desire to keep costs up because it makes them more profits. Now the thing is, see, if you stripped away all of the government incentives, stripped away Medicare, just got rid of it, and for themselves, it was a completely private system. And nobody was mandated to take any kind of health insurance or anything like that, or any garbage like that, because it's basically subsidizing insurance companies. What you would have is that a lot of the costs would fall down drastically. They would fall, and across the board, insofar as the hospitals are concerned, and insofar as big pharma, there you'd have to have some sort of some sort of state regulation, because I'm in favor of state regulation. I think that, in point of fact, the state should regulate private markets, because as anybody who knows anything about trading and basic economics, in any iterative trading game, eventually one player will win everything. An iterative trading game is when you just keep on trading over and over again. You keep on repeating different trades, right? Buying and selling in whatever market. If you have 10 players, it's sort of like Monopoly. You guys have all played Monopoly, the board game, right? You keep on playing long enough, even if you have 2 players or 8 players or however many players, one player is going to own everything. That player is going to own everything because that is the nature of iterative trading. That eventually one player just keeps on winning and winning and winning. And now, that is why the state should be there to make sure that no monopolies or oligopolies develop, because monopolies and oligopolies are pernicious to the society, as we're seeing today. We're seeing most of the markets in the United States are oligopolies. Look at online and the internet, and everybody bitching and moaning about YouTube, and YouTube is a monopoly, and we content creators have no place else to go, not realistically. And so my thinking is, if we get rid of the government incentives insofar as the healthcare industry, the cost would go down, and so healthcare would not be inaccessible to the population. On the contrary, there's no government subsidy, no government interference in medical. Would make those costs go down and make them accessible to the vast majority of people. Now, that small minority of people, that 20% of the population that did not have the wherewithal, to charity hospitals, which I'm sure would be developed because it is the natural human impulse to altruism. The natural human impulse that would be channeled towards people, volunteering to charity hospitals, volunteering to giving money and donations to charity hospitals, and that's how you would take care of the 20%. Would this be a rougher system on people? Yes. But that roughness, that difficulty, is exactly what you want in the society, so that the society does not decay. That's my whole point. It's not that I'm just a big meanie that doesn't want people to have an easy life. It's the recognition that an easy life in the long run, a population will decay and degenerate degenerate rather, as it has. I mean, look at around us. We have these fat people. We have these, pedophile perverts trying to normalize their behavior. We have transsexuals who are people who are sick in the head, and they're trying to make everybody else sick in the head and normalize their insanity. I mean, look, my thinking is that we are in a society in decay, and we have to, make things tougher so as to put our society back on track. Now, of course, that's what I'm thinking, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, if at all.
Well, fuck.
I think things are probably going to continue down this path, and sooner or later there will be some kind of correction, whether anyone wants it to happen or not. That's what I think is going to happen.
From your mouth to God's ear, man. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, to tell you the truth. I think what's going to happen is that the Muslims are going to take it over. I mean, the Muslims and North Africans. Well, they've already taken over Western Europe. Okay, the French people
for sure.
A minority in France by the year 2050.
I think America.
That's just an actuarial fact. Okay, I mean, even freezing immigration in France today. That's what's going to happen by 2050.
Oh, you would. To fix that problem, you would have to actively start sending people back.
Yeah, that's
forced deportations.
But I mean, this is the thing, is like the alt-right, I've noticed, kind of obsesses over like this future date where the native populations of those countries will become minorities in those countries. But the thing is like you don't even need them to become a majority for you to start. I mean, we're already seeing the results of the immigration. We're already seeing the results of these pluralities. Even where you have like 15% of the country is Muslim or West African, 20% of the country is Muslim or West African. You essentially have the government bending over backwards to appease those groups as minorities of the population. So it almost doesn't matter what their demographic share of the population is if the government is just falling over itself to appease them.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
in this council called Tower Hamlets, which has got a quite high Muslim population, between May 2016 and April 2017, there were 9,000 cases of FGM reported, and there wasn't a single arrest. just to let that sink in.
Not one arrest. Yeah, because they're too politically correct to arrest people for committing a crime if they're of the right ethnic extraction. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, and there's some awful barbaric practices being found in sort of these African communities in London as well, such as breast ironing. And we had these rape gangs.
What? What's that?
What is that?
Called breast?
They get they either get irons or hot stones and place them on pubescent girls' breasts so they become flat-chested.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
What?
Oh god!
Yep.
Right.
Oh god.
So, to further braving Ruin's point, the governments are bending over backwards for them now, and they're a small minority. Britain is still something like 85% native Brit, white. Imagine what's going to happen when it's 50%. Now, here's a little thought experiment for you. If 90% of the population has a birth rate of 1.3, and if 10% of the population has a birth rate of 3.5, within 2 generations, they're almost equal.
Yep. That's just the nature of compound interest. That's what it is, basically. Well, look,
right.
My thing is that I disagree with the alt-right on the nature of having like an ethnically pure white population. That's not the issue as far as I'm concerned. My thinking is more along the lines of the paradox of the ship of Theseus. For those of you who don't know, the paradox of the ship of Theseus is very simple. The ship of Theseus leaves Athens and it goes out to Troy or wherever. It's on its adventures, and along the way, every single plank is replaced on the ship because it got an accident here. This thing breaks over there, and over its travels, every single plank, every single bit of metal, every rope, every sail is eventually changed along the way over a period of, who knows, like 5 years, just for the sake of argument, right? And the ship eventually returns to Athens. Now, the paradox, of course, is did the same ship come back? Now, my thinking is yes, it did, because the changes along the way were of two conditions. Number one, they were gradual, and number two, what was replaced was essentially the same as what was broken. Okay, so the issue for me is not immigration. Okay, if Europe or North America were, you know, as the entire population is replaced over the decades, that would be fine if the basic culture, the basic idea, the basic civilization remains. But the problem is, of course,
I don't know if I agree.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
I think what you are not including is the differences between race. So I would actually disagree that the idea of a racially homogenous society is, I don't think you said it was a bad idea, but I would say that it's obviously the way to go for human beings, but it's just whether or not, like, America can't do it now. It can't, because you just can't. I mean, it would just be absolutely awful to get to that stage.
To get to what
if
stage?
you wanted to,
I'm obscure as to what yours.
Well, I mean, unless we talk about free association, and then you can implement free association into the political converse, like actual politicians talking about free association, then maybe we could get somewhere. But right now in America, this idea that we could have a white ethno-state somewhere, or just wall out a district for a racially homogenous group, whichever group, by the way, it could be black, it could be white. Mm-hmm. I don't see that as being something happening in America, because the left is the machines underneath are too strong. But to address your idea, I think that a racially homogenous society, we have to be honest that is the way for a civilization to thrive, because it's not embedded with all of the tensions that typically arise within a more diverse society.
Well, so you're thinking that it has to be ethnically homogenous in order to...
well, it at least has to have... Well, as a matter of what it means to be human, I think that you would need something like Israel, where it's like, obviously other people live there. Obviously you have other races, other cultures who come in and they do their thing. But they are in Israel. It is Israel's values. Israel is where you're at. And
yeah,
I think that America had that at one time.
There's a clear understanding that this is how things are done here. These groups are who the country belongs to, and if you don't like it, you can leave. That's essentially how things are done there.
Yeah, and I feel like America actually used to be like this during the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. But it's somewhere along the way, I think it was actually one particular law, but the name escapes me. It was the immigration law.
Yeah, it was an immigration law. The Immigration Reform Act. I forget the name of it. Yeah,
it was the Hart-Celler Act of 1965. Yeah, where they changed the national origin quotas such that prior to the Hart-Celler Act, the vast majority of immigration to the U.S. was from mostly Western Europe and a bit of Eastern Europe, and then a very small percentage from outside of Europe. And essentially, the Hart-Celler Act took those national origins quotas and turned them upside down, so that a minority of the immigration was coming from Western Europe and the majority was coming from elsewhere.
Right.
And also, I just want to...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say that I say all this as a mixed race person, so I don't actually have anything. I have no real stake in the matter. It's just how if you look at the numbers long enough and you look at human behavior long enough, it is the consensus that one would come to, I think. But anyways, go ahead, Britt.
I forgot what I was going to say. Something you mentioned Israel, Mouthy, and I want to talk to you. The elephant in the room. Your JQ series, referring to the Jewish question. I'd really like you to talk about that, because I think it's really remarkable what you're doing. But please, I'd like to hear, and for our audience to hear, the motivation behind it, because I think it's really interesting.
Well, I mean, I think when I talk about this topic on my own, I'm not going to be giving any of my own opinions, but I can just tell you what other people think on the matter.
Mhm.
So there's this idea of Jewish hypocrisy, where many Jews value a ethnically homogenous Israel, but while at the same time lobby and are behind really massive corporate lobbying groups to implement mass migration into Western countries. So that's the basis of a kind of general sense of what the JQ is. There's all other kinds of questions that fall underneath that, but the basic idea is this idea of hypocrisy, and that's kind of what I've been diving into. Also showing both sides, by the way. So I'm presenting the side that the reason why Jews can be hypocritical, which is the main argument I've been hearing from Jewish people who I've been speaking with and collaborating with, is the Holocaust. So because the Holocaust has happened, Jews deserve a homeland because that was such a depraved incident. And the rebuke to that is that the Holocaust actually isn't what we think it is. But I don't want your stream to get destroyed, so I won't get into that.
Well, it's also it's also you know, a very core, like perhaps the most fundamental aspect of the ethnocultural history of the Jewish people and the Jewish nation is that they're God's chosen people. And the usual counter to this is, oh, well, most Jews are secular, but it doesn't change the fact that that is where their culture came from. That's like a very basic fiber of their culture, is that they are special and that they stand out amongst all other groups of people. So it makes sense that they would, you know, I mean, the Holocaust is just the newest justification for that, but it's not anything new.
Right. And you're right. It is this idea of Jewish exceptionalism. And what's interesting is it seems to be part of their identity, or at least how they view their identity. And I think there was a study by Pew Research that showed that I think it was like 75% of Jews say that remembering the Holocaust is part and parcel of their identity. Mm-hmm. So
American
it's
Jews.
this idea, right? Yeah. So it's this idea of being persecuted but still holding this idea of exceptionalism. And
they've never been persecuted, and not by anybody alive today. I mean, how many Holocaust survivors are alive today? It happened 70 years ago, 72 years ago. You know, for the most part, the vast majority of Jews alive today have never experienced any persecution whatsoever. On the contrary, people bend over backwards to not offend them. You know,
yeah, and if you
but that's where you're wrong, sir. There are third and fourth and fifth generation Holocaust survivors who would like a word with you.
Yeah, they were so they grew up in Brentwood.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, the people on YouTube especially. What's interesting to me is this: a lot of people in YouTube refrain from talking about anything related to Jews or Jewish issues or Jewish what you call hypocrisy, insofar as the issue of immigration, because they fear repercussion. You know, and there's that famous saying, ascribed to Voltaire. He didn't say it, but you know, it's like something he would have said, which is along the lines of whichever population, whomever you cannot criticize is the person who is in power, or something like that.
To learn who rules over you,
right?
But again, Voltaire didn't actually say that. It was
it was apocryphal.
I forget who.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Who said that?
But the point is, you know, a lot of people. I find it very interesting that so many people are very, very leery of getting anywhere close to this issue. They're all in favor of saying all kinds of wild shit. This particular issue, they shy away from it. And I know a lot of YouTubers. I mean, people that you would know who you've done streams with or what have you, who would never talk about this stuff, and they've said outright that they fear for their careers, as it were. Does anybody here fear for their career if you talk about this stuff?
Every second I'm making these videos, yes, I do. Or at least because I feel like I'm at least approaching it from a very strategical point where if anything does happen on my channel, I'll have a really, really, really good argument for why it shouldn't be taken down. But But I mean, I'm putting warnings in the beginnings. None of it's my opinions. I'm just kind of echoing, no pun or whatever. But I'm just kind of using. I'm basically saying what other people are thinking and presenting it in a fashion which is easily understandable and kind of
but you're not answering the question. Why are you doing this?
Well, I mean, Coach.
What?
I think the reason why I'm doing it is because I'm curious and I want to, usually what I like to do is find the topic that everybody talks about in private, but that nobody talks about openly. And then I try to open that up on my channel. I did that with the alt-right. Nobody was criticizing the alt-right, but a lot of people were talking shit about the alt-right. So I wanted to open that up. Now everyone's talking about, or at least many people are talking about this so-called Jewish question. So I thought, okay, I'll open that up too. And what's funny is that I find myself I think I'm one of the only people that's politically, in a position politically where I'm able to do it. Like, or at least on this political spectrum, I'm kind of in the skeptic community, so to speak. And so, like, it would be much more difficult for, Black Pigeon Speaks to come out with a documentary series on the Jewish question because it would just look bad. But I think that I'm a little more fortunate that I'm able to kind of, dip a toe into these ideas without being perceived as awful.
Orwell, what do you think?
About what, sorry?
Okay, I think, Mouthy, about what you just said. I think it's actually true that you're, I don't think anybody seriously is going to be saying, oh, he's anti-Semitic and stuff like that. Because the way you usually handle topics is in a way that you never really land, with both feet on any one side, but you tend to present like all sides, which is, admirable. And I think it's one of your strengths as a content creator. Yet at the same time, I question why the idea of getting into this topic. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And I know why, because I think that for you don't see any benefit, any upside. Right. Yeah. And I totally get it. Like, why would you do this? There's nothing good in it for you. And you might be right. But sometimes I do think like
whenever I do anything, I tend to have a clear goal in mind insofar as whatever it is. I mean, I'm talking about like bigger things, right? I mean, like for instance, in this conversation, I don't have any other goal except to have a fun conversation with people whom I like and respect.
Right.
But in general, in like a move like that, if I were to do a video series like the one that you're doing, and not even just one video, but a series of videos, I'd have a very, very clear rationale for why I'm doing it. Okay. Just as like insofar as my own content is concerned, there are a few key episodes that I've done that, some of them are sort of like run-of-the-mill, like, how to pick up girls, shit like that. But some of them are very, very strategic, done with a clear goal in mind and a clear effect that I want to achieve. Okay? And so that's the way I think. That's the way.
So do I.
Go ahead. Okay, so what do you hope to achieve as a result of this? What does your champagne room look like?
Well, I mean, I don't really want to put all of my cards out there, but
okay.
But I would just say all I can say is that the topic is very interesting to me. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating to me, and but as far as like my goals, I certainly know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, but I don't know if I want to.
No, it's perfectly fine.
Right,
yeah,
but it definitely is a fascinating topic.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I want to talk to you about something completely different. You guys all heard about the Right Wing Watch article where it basically. Oh man.
Yeah.
And avocado who are gateways to hate. I love that one. Okay. Yeah, because whenever I look at roaming millennial, I just feel hatred and derision towards everybody, and especially ethnic minorities. Yeah, because that's the vibe that comes off of her. Yeah, it's just like what the hell? I mean, mainstream is just trying harder and harder to marginalize anybody who even remotely questions their narrative. I mean, is there any other way to look at this piece?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the most right-wing thing, quote unquote right-wing, about roaming millennial is her opposition to feminism. And if we're looking at the United States, okay, something like, I think it's something like 82% of the population, when polled, will say that they don't identify as feminists. So does that mean that 82% of the U.S. population far right wing? I don't think so.
Well, according to these people, maybe they are. Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's just such a. I mean, the bar for this stuff. The
God with fucking Black Pigeon speaks. That's like night and day. I mean, what the hell?
I mean, the bar for this stuff is so incredibly low. It's unbelievable. There is no bar.
And what I found so funny personally, okay, is that the skeptics, as of late, have been trying to find a new enemy, a new pinata that they can hit, right? Because they realize that feminism and anti-SJW stuff has sort of like run its course. There's no more easy targets, right? Gotten boring. And so they were looking around and they were scoping out the alt-right to be the new whipping boy, right? And that's why Kraut and T went out and did those stupid videos and fell flat on his face. That's why V, whenever he attacks somebody, he tries to paint them as alt-right. That's his first go-to thing. That's what they were trying to do. And Sargon, as everybody knows, is the leader of that particular little clique. It is alt-right by this, which I thought was just like the karmic irony supreme. I mean,
that's not even anything new. Like, if you know Chris Ray-Gun, he gets called alt-right. They all get called alt-right. Basically, anybody who is even remotely oppositional to progressives or to the left is being called alt-right now.
Yeah,
which is
I
don't.
I would say that the way the media is portraying it, which is that anybody within this YouTube community, anti-SJWs, actual alt-righters, everyone in between, centrists, is getting dubbed alt-right because we all pretty much agree that this SJW type narrative that's been being spun from the media is a very bad idea and worthy of criticism. So because we're all mirroring that same objection, they think we're all, or actually no, I don't think they think we're all the same. They're not stupid. Many of them are. They totally know that what they're doing is a hatchet job. Like Sticks, X, and Hammer, they took one small 3 or 4 second clip of him saying, "Yeah, I have nothing against white nationalism," and then they just cut to something else. And Sticks, X, and Hammer, obviously he's going to dive into his views and unpack that and really get into why he said it. But they just cut. They just, look at this guy.
Yeah, the Sticks does what? Like maybe 3 videos a day, a total of maybe what? An hour of content every fucking day. And all of his views are incredibly dense, right? And out of all that plethora of material, the 3 seconds, the 3 little seconds, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, man, it just...
and Sticks looks like your friendly neighborhood Nazi now, doesn't he? With the long hair, the leather jacket. I mean, come on, man. Jesus. I just find it...
I think the upside is that this, whatever we are, this YouTube community is grabbing their attention. And I find that to be just a net positive. We're on their radar.
Sticks himself in today's content said that he thought it was just a reaction out of fear. But these guys know that their days are numbered, and they're just swiping at whom they perceive is eating their bacon. And I think he's actually correct. I think that I actually have floated the idea that the current crop that all of us are part of, as it were, the whole crop of this corner of YouTube is going to be around for a lot longer than people think, and that the people coming up now, they're going to be around for like 10 years, 15, 20 years, that this little hump of people, because right now it seems that there's like a hump of people who are very capable, very prepared, very smart, very articulate, and they are able to espouse ideas in a very coherent way, not only coherent, but very attractive way. I think that this whole crowd of people is going to be around for a lot longer. I don't think that this is so temporary. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
I think that this is sort of like the reporters who were reporting, in in the early '70s, and all those reporters like Bernstein and Woodward and that whole crowd, like Neil Sheehan and all those people, those journalists in the late '60s, early '70s, they were around for decades afterwards. It wasn't just a little hump. It was a generation that endured over time. You see what I mean? Mouthy, you were saying something?
I agree. I think that I do, however, want to point out one negative characteristic, which I think I hadn't thought about until just now for some reason. But if you don't know anything about this community, you don't know anything about YouTube, you never use YouTube, and you were to read that article, it would all sound totally cohesive. And I would even go as far as to say if you were to watch the video that they put in the article, that they embedded within the article, that it would just be kind of horrifying, because especially if you've never been exposed to these kinds of ideas. So what they're doing might actually be affecting people in a way that obviously it doesn't affect us because we know it's ridiculous and dishonest. Mm-hmm. But I think we have to grapple with the idea that there are people who have read that and seen that and don't want anything to do with us because of it. And maybe that number of people is larger than we might think, and maybe the media really is having an effect. I mean, we know that they've been able to basically get YouTube to demonetize the majority of our videos. They have slandered us. There is a kind of war going on, and I don't think by any means we should underestimate these dishonest groups.
No, I agree that we shouldn't underestimate them. Braving, what do you think?
I mean, I think Right Wing Watch is sort of it's sort of an old like this is an organization that's been around for a pretty long time, since people my age were kids, and it seems like more of a fringe thing than anything. It's not really like a mainstream organization. So I don't really think it's
by Soros. You know that?
Well, yeah, lots of things are funded by Soros, but
Soros is everywhere. But yeah, I agree. It's not a very substantial, or I don't even know what Right Wing Watch is. So I would agree that it probably doesn't have a large sway, but I think that there does seem to, we are on the radar. And it's interesting to kind of witness this. Go ahead.
If you think of it like this, the vast majority of the general population are pretty much apathetic to politics to start with. So you have a minority of the general population who are even interested in politics to begin with. And then of those people, you have a minority who are, I guess you could say, of varying affiliations. So any particular affiliation, whatever that particular affiliation is doing, is going to be a minority of a minority. So I don't think there's all that many people even paying attention to Right Wing Watch to start with. There's probably more people watching political channels on YouTube, if I had to bet on it.
Well, yeah. I agree with you that I think that the Right Wing Watch has much less reach than, for instance, arbitrarily Black Pigeon Speaks. I mean, Black Pigeon, he gets to 100,000, sometimes 200,000 views, and Right Wing Watch, I doubt if they get, maybe 40, 30? I'd be very surprised. Somebody would have to look that up. But I think you're right that their influence is disproportionate. It's sort of like, for instance, like Millennial Woes. He has a fairly small channel, but his impact and his influence and his place in the ecosphere is much, much larger than that.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that I think they're right that not many people read it, but that Right Wing Watch has pull, has influence. I think, and a lot of people are going to be like using it, like you said, and looking at that and like say, oh, this guy's Six Hexenhammer and this weirdo, and this other, the bearded fellow, the fat bearded guy, and this little Asian chick, and they're going to say, oh, they're all Nazis, and I think that,
I actually just went and looked, and Millennial Woes actually has more subscribers and averages more views than the Right Wing Watch YouTube channel does. So,
Nice.
so Woes by himself is bigger than this little, screeching lefty organization.
Yeah, but that's very true. But we have to understand also there are the numbers, and then there's the influence of those numbers. And a lot of the problems that we're having is that our audience a lot of times are people who are marginalized and alienated from positions of leadership insofar as the society is concerned.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, that's a good point, because it's not just about raw numbers of how many people are seeing what or how many people are exposed to this message or that message. It's also about who is being exposed to a given message, who agrees with it, and what are they able to do to propagate that message.
I mean, like, for instance, if the Right Wing Watch video is watched by only 1,000 people, but those 1,000 people are all focused in like the media companies in New York, well, what does that mean? It's over for a lot of these people. And point of fact, I got the word from somebody I know in LA that this article really, really hurt roaming millennial, and that's kind of sad. Well, I'll tell you guys about that in some other opportunity. But anyway, going back to this thing, do you guys think that there are going to be more hit pieces like this? I mean, is this like the...
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Orwell, what do you think?
Yeah, no doubt there will be more hit. I mean, there have been in the past. New York Times did a couple months ago. They did an article that was pretty much exclusively about Black Pigeon. Using him as like a case study of the rise of the far right on YouTube, quote unquote far right.
Yeah,
I had I've barely got over 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and I've had people from the Daily Beast email me directly, and I don't really advertise my email address that well, asking me about the Lugan Press and its origin in the alt-right movement. And some sort of B-list Washington newspaper published an article about a tweet I sent out when I had half my presence. So these people are definitely going to do it to bigger accounts, and they're just going to look to malign them as much as possible. Somebody like Sargon being kicked off Twitter twice, and he doesn't really hold extreme beliefs. He's a centre-left dude who's just anti-communist, to be realistic. And I think he got in trouble on Facebook as well. They don't want people who appear to be moderate to be vehemently anti-far left.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they don't want people who are moderate to be anti-far left. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh. Anyway, we've gone now for 2 hours, 2.25 hours. So I think that we're going to call it a day insofar as the stream, because I think that our listeners are probably like sick and tired of us. Although I myself have just been enjoying the hell out of it. But I think that we all have to go and do stuff. So I just want to thank all of my guests. Brittany from A Bit of Brit, Mouthy Buddha from Mouthy Buddha, Orwell and Goode from his Twitter and YouTube channel, and Braving Ruin. And this is Coach Redspill signing off. I want to thank all of my guests for having joined me, and hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.